Hello, humans, dinosaurs! Yes, this is Lopho and...
Dino.
Yes. So today we are... wait, hold up. Oh my god. We're already screwing up on our first day, right? This podcast is toast, right? Anyways, yes, we're decided to make a dinosaur podcast. So Dilo, would you care to explain what this dinosaur podcast is gonna be about?
I believe the way we want to organize this is as a podcast about paleo media as a whole. So that would be featuring films, television, books, news, and basically any other forms of media that would involve dinosaurs or paleontological subject matter.
Interesting. Right. So, okay, sorry for, like, I'm I got a lot of things going on right now, so wait, hold up, right. So, today, what are we gonna be talking about? Wait, you should be saying that, I should be answering. Never mind, right, you know, let's throw the script out, right. Okay, so today... Well, welcome humans and dinosaurs to the Dinosaur Media Podcast, the Fossil Record. Yes, it's a fun name, I know. Right, so originally I was thinking about, oh, it's a podcast. So, wasn't there like a pirate called Pod in what was it, Dinosaur Planet, was that?
Yes, Pod the raptor.
Yes.
I think you said Pyroraptor. It could have been the Velociraptor. I'm trying to remember.
No,
It's been 10 years.
There was a Velociraptor called White Tip. It's from a different episode. So yeah, you are not wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I always got those two models confused because for some reason, kid me thought they looked similar. When now looking back, like they look completely different. So, anyways, so yes, I was thinking about we should do something about Power Raptors and stuff, but then we realized we're just both Dilos, so it just wouldn't make sense. See, this is what you call a skill issue, guys. Should have picked Power Raptor instead of Dilophosaurus, right? Okay, so today we are gonna be talking about some bad dinosaur movies. So, for example, we've watched Velocipastor yesterday on stream. And yeah, that is preparation for today. So we're gonna be talking about some bad dinosaur media, and not media, dinosaur movies specifically, like low budget dinosaur movies, right? Because if you like Dilo, if you think a bad dinosaur movie, what's the first movie that comes to your mind?
Dinosaur Hotel.
Oh, okay. I didn't even expect that answer. Okay, well, I really I guess I was like, wait, there's a movie called Dinosaur Hotel? Because I was I was expecting you to say, oh, it's Jurassic World Dominion, right? And then I would be like, oh yes, but you know, today we're gonna be talking about like bad movies with low budgets and stuff, and you'd be like, oh yeah, right?
Hey, if you were up at 2 a.m. going for the bells of certain streaming services, you'll find a lot of bad dinosaur movies 200 pages in.
Oh yeah, I think I can see that, right? Okay, so yeah, we're gonna be talking about some bad dinosaur movies specifically, and some paleo media that features paleontologists. So it's a bit different than other dinosaur media because the main character and the focus of the media has to be being a paleontologist, or like the main character itself is a paleontologist. It's not about it's less about dinosaurs and more about the science itself. So I think we're gonna be talking about why we don't have a lot of media that does that. So yeah, those two are gonna be the things. But first off, we're gonna be starting off by talking about what we have going on in our world today regarding dinosaur stuff. So 30 minutes, so the podcast will be about an hour and 30 minutes long. 30 minutes, we'll be talking about the news, and the next hour, we're gonna split it up in two sections. Every 30 minutes, we're gonna be talking about something else. So, first, today, it's gonna be Velocipastor and a bad, not really bad, but like, why there aren't that many paleontologist paleo media out there, right? What you think, Dilo?
About Velocipastor or our paleontologist?
About the podcast. Were you even listening?
Yes, I am listening. I'm trying to follow along.
Sorry, I was just trying to stir you up, right?
I know. It's good. It's good.
Right, okay, so, well, I have the perfect news that we're gonna be starting off by. So, have you heard about the dinosaur game called Dino Run?
Once a very long time ago. I think it's still sitting on my Steam wish list, but I've never played it.
Oh, wait, the game is actually free, you know. The Steam version is just the version of it as a program. If you type in Dino Run 2, I think you can play it online, actually. Right, yeah, so I remember playing that game a lot on school PCs because you didn't have to download anything. You just had to go to like a cheap dinosaur website, dinosaur gaming website, or it doesn't even have to be a dinosaur gaming website. Just like remember like when we were kids. I don't even know how old you are, right? Okay, so you might be like 12 years old, and I'm like, oh, you weren't even born back then, right? Anyways. For the record, I'm 21, so, yes. Yeah, am I 21? Actually, no, I'm 22! No, I'm 21 now. Next month, I turn 22.
That means I'm the older Dilo from here. I would be in my, I actually think I'm as old as Land Before Time. I am about 35 now.
Oh, wow. Just spoiling the news here, aren't we?
Well, it's on the news segment. It's not that much of a spoiler.
Right, yes. Anyways, so Dino Run 2, Pixel Jam teased a Dino Run 2. The reason I decided to pin this is because, the reason I found it noteworthy is because Pixel Jam didn't really advertise a lot of, like, Dino Run stuff. They've been advertising more other game stuff outside of Dino Run because, I don't know, maybe I'm stupid, but personally, I've always known Pixel Jam for Dino Run and only Dino Run. Even people who don't know, don't know a lot about dinosaurs know Pixel Jam's Dino Run 2, but I don't think I've really heard about any of their other games so far. So, yeah, pretty interesting that they're finally starting to advertise Dino Run 2. Do you think the game is going to be finally coming out?
Difficult to say. We have a long-standing history of dinosaur games that love to enter either early access or they show up on Steam and say coming soon, and then we never hear anything for another 5 years. This is a good sign. There's something happening. There's a bird.
Yeah, it's a bird. It's honestly, it's very cute.
It's almost a dinosaur. It's almost like a non-avian dinosaur.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's supposed to be a dinosaur, right?
Well, we have the avian dinosaurs and we have the non-avian dinosaurs. So it's almost we're halfway there. We got one side of the dinosaur lineage represented. I think it's a good sign.
Yeah,
we're on the right track. At least they weren't like, here's a squirrel.
Here's a squirrel. Well, I know it. Okay, right. Moving on. So. Moving on, next up, we have a very, very specific post. So, you guys know that my channel is, one of my best videos on our channel is the video regarding the Papo T-Rex. So, that is why I found it very hilarious when someone found a University Dinosaur exhibition poster that for some reason photoshopped feathers on top of the Papo T-Rex. Like, what kind of abomination is this? Like, the demon of Babylon disguises himself with the coat of the righteous. Truer words have never been said.
Yeah, it's almost right up there with that with some AI images in some ways of just looking at it and going like, that doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem right at all.
I don't know, like, personally, like, in my opinion, right, as much as I like seeing feathered dinosaurs, like, I feel like it would be wrong to give, like, I really hate those dinosaur feather dinosaurs where it's obviously just, like, a Jurassic Park T-Rex or a Jurassic Park Raptor with, like, a couple of feathers plucked onto him, right? I mean, in this case, it's a full-on code, so it's a bit better, but, like, not by much, because I feel like giving, like, fake feathered dinosaur images on the internet just puts a bad impression on feathered dinosaurs, because like nowadays we got a lot better feathered dinosaur representation, especially with Jurassic World stuff, with the Power Raptor. Even that Power Raptor in a sense is kind of a satire if you think about it, because like it's like obviously meant to like the feathering with the Power Raptor at least looked nice, right? Same with like I don't know about this guy, but like there's some dinosaur versions out there. If you like before Jurassic World Dominion was a thing, if you typed up like feathered raptor, you'd see some paleo accurate ones. But then you'd see like some of those really weird abominations where they just glue on feathers on top of like JP raptors, and I think that just gives the very ridiculous impression that feathered dinosaurs just look awful. And I think, like, if most people think about feathered dinosaurs, that's the image that they have in their head. So the fact that some people post, like, Jurassic Park dinosaurs with feathers glued onto them style images just reinforces that statement. And I'm afraid that, like, that kind of thing might, like, put them off from seeing actual feathered dinosaurs, which, like, if you look at actual feathered dinosaur, like, images, they don't really look ridiculous or they don't look weird. They just look like, oh yeah, that's just like a random bird, right? No, it's actually a dinosaur, right? You're right?
Yeah, like I just keep looking at the image personally for myself and just feel like it's just in that nature of uncanny. And and as you were saying, like it really is sort of like I feel like if you want to design good paleo art and whatnot, or good depictions, you have to kind of make it seem very natural, or at least like it's like in the art it sort of flows like the way the feathers and designs would be. And I kind of have to admit this kind of just looks like it's just sort of like, yep, it's very spliced in together. It doesn't look natural. It doesn't feel genuine in any regard. And between things like this and AI dinosaur creation and whatnot, like I've shown you some horrible images personally between us about like bad AI dinosaur images. So it's just unfortunate that there's just more examples of it, and it just kind of goes. And the worst part for me is it goes through a screening process too. Somebody had to approve this and say that was okay to put up on an actual poster to hang up for everybody to see as well.
Yeah, and it's really kind of like, I mean, I'm assuming whoever's like approved it isn't really well versed in paleo. But then I just keep thinking about like a lot of paleo graduates right now, like they don't really have like a lot of jobs from what I've heard. Like it's really hard to find a job in paleo. And then you see shit like this, and then you're wondering like what do you mean? Like look at this shit. Like what do you mean? No one's like hiring you guys. Like, come on! There's like people slapping on Papo T-Rexes on feathered dinosaur guys. Like, you could maybe hire someone to take care of this, right? Apparently not. Right? That's not how the world works. Unfortunately, but honestly, you know what the saddest part about this is that the fact that I don't know if I should be angry about this or happy that they didn't use AI.
The definition of trying to pick the lesser of two evils when both evils kind of means slow, painful withdrawal. It's either the Papo T-Rex is butchered, or it's AI art that has like Churrasauruses where tails and necks are combined into a horrific display of anatomy. I don't know. Yeah, it's very, very much to me. It's like it's splitting hairs on like, well, which is the race to the bottom in your decisions at this point. And like I said, the worst thing to me when I think about this one is it went through a screening process. Someone approved it. Someone actually had to consciously look at that and say that was fine. When it's basically the equivalent of they took a Papo T-Rex, threw it in a pillow with some glue, and combed it afterwards. That's almost what I'm seeing. It's just like it's like pillow feathers, and someone just kind of combs it back to make it look nice. It's
especially with that raptor on the bottom, like Like, can we just talk? Like, I know we are on a tight schedule, but like, can we just take a moment to look at that raptor? Like, what is that? Like, yeah, but the Paparex is one thing. Look at that raptor. Why does it have feathers growing out from the side of its head? Like when modern birds don't do that, right? At least when they do, they don't look like that, right?
No, and no, definitely not quite like that. And I don't know why. It just like with the coloration, it looks so taunt on even just the skull itself, like the white on it. If I wasn't looking too closely at it, it would almost seem like that dinosaur's wearing a bed sheet. It's like it almost actually tried to cut out the eyes and tried to play like, I'm wearing the bed sheet to be a ghost. It just doesn't feel right. It feels very.
Well, it is
uncanny.
what it is. Moving on. Let's hope that the next exhibition does not use neither of those two. Right. Oh, so it's finally here. Yes, Dialogue. Thank you for the spoiler, by the way. Just joking. But yes, Land Before Time has finally hit its 36th anniversary, which is insane to me because I thought Land Before Time was like 300 years old now, but no, it's only 36 years old. Right, crazy stuff. I remember when I was a kid, I found those Land Before Time DVDs on sale, and I always used to watch them. What was your favorite movie?
Okay,
as a kid, because obviously it's gonna be the first when we're grown-ups, but
yes, as a grown-ups, and I feel like anytime anybody asks me name me a favorite one, it's like I don't even want to throw the first one in anymore because I'm like, okay, that's the low-hanging fruit. Everybody will knows the first one's still the best. If I was gonna actually pick another one, I would actually sit down and watch again. I still like the second one of all of them, just because I like the introduction of Chomper, which is the T-Rex there in the image. There was the two Struthiomimuses that sang a song about eggs, and I still know how to sing that song from
a classic.
It's a classic. It's a classic, like B-tier musical number that was like, yeah, that was awesome. I love those moments.
I'm pretty sure that eggs. Oh yeah, go on. But yeah, let me throw one thing in. If I had to pick an anthem that represents like most dinosaur media out there, I think the most memorizable one would probably be the Egg Song. That is like a song that is definitely from Paleo media that most people that are like in the paleo internet space know. It would probably be eggs, I think. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that's definitely like, because so many of the Land Before Time films had musical numbers, and it's like that is actually one of the few I would still remember today. Like I remember it as a kid, I remember it growing up. It still is memorable. It still actually is one of the catchy ones that was like really good. Like all of them kind of started to have a few musical numbers. It was the 90s. There was a lot of Disney musicals. I'm thinking that's where we borrowed it from. But yeah, that was definitely the highlight. That was one of the best choice ones. And I still actually thought, like, for out of all the direct-to-video ones that they did in the 90s that I ever got to see as a kid, I just also like the second one for being like, it still felt like there was some genuine effort in the animation. It wasn't on the level of the original, but it was still, someone was still trying. The team still was trying to make it look good. There wasn't as much rushed elements, and I do feel as they went on, because they had to release a new one every year. It's like, oh yeah, you're starting to see the rush.
Two things. So first of all, I didn't actually know that the Eggs song was a classic, because when me and my sister were watching the Land Before Time series on DVD, it wasn't actually the Egg song that we all remembered. It was like the big water song. That's the one that we always knew, and we sang in the parents' car while we're coming back from school, because my parents because back then, believe it or not, back in the early 2000s, I mean not 2000s, like 2010s, right? Yeah, I grew up in the 2010s. Like, this is anyways, we didn't have phones and stuff. I mean, we had them, but like it was like a very luxury kind of stuff. We didn't have like a phones for kids. So what my parents would get is that they would get me like a DVD player, and we'd always like bring up a bunch of like my mom and would borrow a bunch of DVDs. I'd bring a bunch of dinosaur DVDs from home, and I'd be watching those documentaries and like Land Before Time DVDs on the DVD player. So every time we went for a family trip that involved us like a long trip with the car, or like moving back from school, we'd always watch the Land Before Time or some other movie from there. So yeah, so the big one thing that caught my attention was the Big Big Water song. The egg song, I didn't even know it was popular until the Gaming Beaver started memifying in it. So yeah. So personally, right, I think my favorite movie, it has to be the sixth one. It's the one with the Diplodocus and Saurus Rock. Do you know? Have you watched that? Have you watched it?
Yes, that is the last one I remember. I definitively remember seeing as a kid before I started to maybe a little move. Like as I got older, I remember moving on a little bit from Land Before Time for a while, but that was definitely one of the last ones I remember, at least at some point, seeing. But I admit it is foggy still in the back of my brain. What I really have been meaning to do is trying to find a DVD collection with all the bloody movies in them and just be like, you know what, just take the time to go through the ones I don't remember anymore. like there were some ones that like I think there's 14 of them, and it's like, well, got some catching up to do because I only made it up to 5 or 6.
Wait, there was 14 of them? I thought there was like
there is
12.
14 movies overall and a TV series. So
I know the TV series
lasted quite a while.
Yeah, the last movie that I watched was the one with the weird fat babe pianosauruses. That's probably someone's fetish out there.
I think I got lost after the big freeze. I heard about the big freeze, and I'm like, okay, this is starting to sound like Ice Age. No thank you.
Wait. So, did you know that, like, I actually haven't, like, I don't know the 14th one, like, the one with the UTs, apparently. I haven't watched that, because I don't know where to watch it. There's 2 movies that I never watched. I never watched the one with the weird, like, red crystal. I think I remember watching a part of it on TV. It's where Petrie's, like, uncle flies in. I never watched that movie, and I've never watched The Big Freeze. Those 2 are the movies I've never seen. The others I've seen. At least once.
Fair enough. I didn't even realize Petrie had any fans. Forgot that far. Now I'm half tempted to be like, hey, it took you what did it take him? 10 movies to start showing up? Deadbeat uncle.
Okay, actually, right.
There's one thing I will say that kind of threw me off when I first heard about this, because I actually, when you say I spoiled it, I might have spoiled this a few minutes ago, but then I got spoiled by this earlier in my day by my own spouse, who was like, "Oh, well, here's there's a anniversary of Land Before Time," and showed me an image of all the main characters, but as like grown-ups, because she likes looking at fan art and stuff. And I just stared at it for a minute, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I kept staring at the Oviraptor, going like, who the hell is that? I don't remember them at all. And I realized that's why I found out about there being a TV show. So I just thought it was a funny reaction to be like, I recognize everything else, but I'm like, who is this pink dinosaur and then the image? I don't know this one.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, the color scheme is a bit jarring, isn't it? Everyone is like in this very like natural palette. Then we got that bright pink dinosaur in the back. It is weird if you think about it.
Well, and I was kind of thinking like, oh, that must have been like later films, but I was still going like, yeah, I definitely don't remember that one. I'm like, oh no, that was there was a TV series too? What have I been missing? Oh, right, Adult Life.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next up is, like, Collect Jurassic. So, this is something that I wanted to post, right? Because, Collect Jurassic uploaded this weird T-Rex image on the internet. Like, I knew it was fake, because, I sometimes use Facebook. I hate to admit it, still. I know I'm a living fossil. I still use Facebook, but one of those groups that I am in is a dinosaur toy collecting group, and they were showcasing an image of this exact toy and a couple others, and they were showing it off as like, oh, it's one of those new toy cheapo animal kingdom things that Walmart is gonna have. But then I went ahead and looked at a Korean Jurassic Park community, and they were going crazy over this image. I'm like, what do you mean that's a leak? It's not a leak. But, like, yeah, it turns out Collect Jurassic, so for some reason, had the bright idea to post this, and, yeah, it was a joke. Yeah. I don't know, like, I don't know, right? Like, I feel like, what do you think first, right? What do you think, right? If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me.
Well, I think it's better than the pillow the pillow Rex that we saw earlier with the feathers. If only because I'm looking at the spines, I kind of think like, hey, it looks like somebody glued Swedish berries on the back, so it might be a slightly edible toy. So at least say this much, like it's a little better. I recognize it better, but it doesn't look like a particularly good toy either.
Right, I don't know, like, I guess the design definitely looks quite ridiculous. And there's also that, like, it's based off the Jurassic Park T-Rex if you look at the head, so... But, you know what's really sad about this? Is that if Mattel actually released this, I would have to buy it, regardless of whether it's looking good or not, because I need to complete the series.
Fair enough. It's almost like these. I would be a lot more picky if I was a toy collector. But that's just me personally. I even have a few Popo dinosaurs myself. But I'm just like, I'm not gonna collect every one. Just the ones I really like. Because that can get crazy after a point. $100 for a Brachiosaurus is a little crazy in my book even.
Wait, the Brachiosaurus costs $100 over there?
It's either the Brachiosaurus or the Apatosaurus, but it's one of the big sauropods. Is like $100.
Who sells Papo dinosaurs at over $100? What? Wait,
museums do that. You want to go?
Yeah, museums do that, but like, you get your Papo toys from museums?
You can get them at certain museums. Like heck no, go to the Royal Terrell. You'll certainly find Papo.
Yeah, but like
dinosaurs at an up church.
They cost like $50 here.
I must be lucky. And again, I am the Canadian Dilo at this point. Everything here is crazy expensive for reasons.
I see. All right, moving on. Right. So, well, have you heard about this manga called Dinosaur Sanctuary? Dalo? Oh
yes.
No. Yes. Have you heard about the manga called Dinosaur Sanctuary? I'm sorry. Yes. I think next time we're gonna move the stream a couple hours earlier, right? We can't go on.
Hey, I'm almost pushing past midnight here. In my time zone and at my age, that like I was life of the party at 9:30. Okay. I'm an old Dilo these days. But no, I have heard of it. I want to read this series, to be honest. I just haven't been able to find it locally. Apparently no one will bring it in unless I do like specific online orders. I'm looking into doing it. But I actually am interested in this just because I don't actually see any dinosaur manga ever that I can think of. So why not support something as crazy as this?
Yeah, I think I've seen a couple episodes on stream, but I think I saw the Trudon one. Yes, this manga has Trudons, unfortunately. Anyways, yes, I think I saw it up to like chapter 4. I think I really enjoyed it. So, unfortunately, I actually tried to go to Japan and buy this book. But because I was too busy when I was in Japan, I I really couldn't go to the bookstore, and then I didn't even know like what this manga would be called in Japan. Like, would it actually still be called Dinosaur Sanctuary? Maybe it's like some other name in Japanese that we don't exactly know. So if I went to like a random Japanese store and asked for, oh, do you have Dinosaur Sanctuary here? I don't think they'd be able to understand me, and it's not like I can type Japanese, so I was like, yeah, it's like a lot of like complicated steps to go through, isn't it? But we don't really have this manga in Korean either, so yeah, that's why I couldn't really look at it.
Yeah, no, from what I gather, it's too niche for most people to bring it in. But I especially because and this might be a small side tangent, but one of the reasons I started finding out about this series is there are Dilophosauruses featured in it, and the author does draw them very beautifully. I love the drawings of the Dilophosauruses in this series, so I am trying to find this series, but apparently it's like, well, what's it called again? Every time I've asked, somebody's always just like, oh, I've never heard of this before, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm gotta explain, gotta pull up a Twitter feed, gotta show them some example or other.
Yeah, Dinosaur Sanctuary.
Yeah, and yeah, nobody's heard of it. Nobody hardly knows about it over here, and yeah, I've just been having a hard time trying to find actual print copies of this.
Yeah, like, I don't know, it's same with me. I guess we too live in very isolated communities, I guess. I mean, if you think about it in a very broad sense of way, both Korea and Canada are very, very small countries located in a very, very distant away place.
Our greatest detriment is we've always been in the shadow of our cultural overlords down south, but you know, aside from those elements, it's just been, I've not been able to find it, but I very much want to. I very much would like to support, especially because when my spouse even looked into it, they said, oh, it's kind of like Jurassic Park, but slice of life. And I'm like, that does sound interesting. That sounds like it would make for a perfect manga. I want to actually read this.
Yeah, I think I would definitely love to read this too. Right. Okay, moving on. Let's see. So, have you heard about the rumor that Jurassic World Rebirth is gonna have the trailer next week? Or this week? What do you think?
Well, I guess I'll have to acknowledge its existence sooner or later with a trailer. I was hoping for at least another few years, but okay, I'll accept just in time for my Christmas wish to be not to get the lump of coal that will be the fourth Jurassic World trailer. For the record, for anybody watching, my personal stance is I've never ever have been a fan of the Jurassic World series. I don't take it against anybody else. It's just for me, it was a series I've never gotten on board with. It hasn't convinced me, and I'm not looking forward to a fourth one. But that's just me.
Wow. You know, we're talking about this in a dinosaur media podcast, right? Those kind of words will get you killed.
I guess for some people, but at the same time, I have progressively gone through Jurassic World in the vein of being going to see it opening day, then getting a free ticket and asking a refund in Fallen Kingdom, then almost falling asleep in the middle of an IMAX theater during Dominion, and I'm not sure if I want to look forward to a fourth one. I don't know if I'll even make it out of the theater without some medical assistance.
Honestly, I think I enjoyed the first one. Not a fan about this huge expanded universe thing. I think I hate the aspect that movies are slowly turning into something that's being looked forward to, or something that, oh, this is the stakes are going higher. Like, it's probably gonna build up to a climax, right? Nope, these movies never do that. Instead, they just stretch out the story, add in 10 billion characters, gonna add in TV shows for every one of those characters. So at that point, it becomes just a chore to watch all of them. So, like, that's the kind of stuff that I don't really like. I like, if it eventually has, like, an ending, if its an ending is, like, planned, like, I can see myself enjoying that. That's why I think I enjoy mangas, because when I read a manga, I can definitely think, or at least, like, come to the conclusion, regardless how dog shit the ending is, looking at you, Oshinoko, but, like, eventually, it's gonna end, right? The story's gonna end, I can move on to the next thing, right? But when I'm looking at a movie nowadays, I'm like, yeah, like, something's gonna happen, yeah, something happens, and then another guy appears, we'll have to watch the next one, and do it again, and again, and again. But whatever, right? We aren't here. We aren't going too deep, right? It's only supposed to be a 30-minute section, right? Let's shut up. What do you think the trailer's gonna be out of 10? Right? Let's see a score. Right?
Out of 10?
Yes.
I'll give it a tepid 3.
Ooh, a 3. Wow. You haven't even watched it. Are you sure the trailer is just gonna be that bad? Because, like, for example, right? The Jurassic World Dominion trailer, I think, was alright. The movie was bad, but, like, the trailer itself wasn't actually that bad. Like, just the trailer itself. How do you think it's gonna be?
Okay, I'll be kinder. I'll be kinder. It's a trailer. It's probably not going to show me enough. Actually, be like, okay, we're gonna show you the masterpiece that is going to be this movie. We'll show you the best parts of the best that we can hint at. So maybe at that point, let's just double or nothing and just say a tepid 6 there.
Tepid 6.
Because then at least I might be like, okay, there might be something I'll see in that trailer I might want to see. Like, maybe, I don't know, like, we got an image here where it's like, hey, there's a Carnotaurus. Hey, show me another Carnotaurus. Yep, okay, maybe I'll come closer to the screen. You know, Disney's Dinosaur always sold me on Carnotaurus, so maybe Jurassic World's got another Carnotaurus up its sleeve. But it also depends on how they, I guess in some ways it's gonna also depend heavily on what I gather is going to be the overall settings of this film. Like if I kind of get the feeling like we're doing another kind of like as we eventually found out in Dominion, it's like we're going back to another kind of closed ecosystem, a park, if you will. Why is there more parks in Jurassic World than there was in Jurassic Park? But hey, that's sense. Me getting cynical. I'll stop that.
All right. So I think for my expectation, I'm gonna give the trailer a 5 out of 10. I think once it appears. Because I'm gonna assume, because Jurassic Park is a franchise that feeds off nostalgia and is practically a nostalgia parasite. So I think the trailer's gonna probably start off for me as a 9. But then we're gonna have something stupid with a flair because it's gonna feed into the nostalgia. We're gonna have something stupid from the original movie that's obviously gonna be a forced-in reference. That's gonna be a -2. And the one thing that I really, really hope this movie was not gonna have is a Spinosaurus. I've seen so many, 9-year-olds cry out they want a Spinosaurus. It needs to be its own thing. Stop. You ruined everything practically about the original movie. I think at this point, the only thing that the original trilogy has going for itself is that fact that it has a Spinosaurus. We aren't gonna talk about Camp Cretaceous after season 4. That's useless, random shit. I'm gonna pretend it's not gonna exist. So, except for that, what does the original franchise got on its own that the new one does not have? Spinosaurus. Please don't have a Spinosaurus. I'm begging you. At least, if it's, the original one. If it's supposed to be, it's a new updated reconstruction with a tadpole tail. If it's, used as a metaphor to how dinosaur science can change and to how, weird dinosaurs can be, I can see myself, kind of, being mediocre when they add a genetically modified Spinosaurus. Because, in Jurassic World Alive, they have a new Spinosaurus genome called Spinosaurus aegypticus, which is like more looking like the original actual Spinosaurs. So I have hopes if the new movie Spinosaurus looks like that, I think it's a good way to show people how the new Spinosaurus looks. But if it's just gonna be another nostalgia parasite, which just gonna put in, oh, this is the same thing from Jurassic Park 3, slap in the rebirth, I'm gonna be so pissed. I think if they're gonna have a Spinosaurus, it will be an automatically 1 for me, because, like, it's really, like, the one thing that I don't like to see, because I hate seeing, like, nostalgia bullshit thrown at me. Like, I was never a guy who, like, focus on nostalgia. I don't care if it's something I've enjoyed as a kid. Like, I don't want to see it on the screen again. Like, I don't like that. It's, like, because it's just it's such a cheap strategy. Like, come on, like, do something new. I don't care if it's something stupid, right? Like, at least with Jurassic World Dominion, with the, like, black dinosaur market. Yeah, was it a stupid concept? Yes! Was it new? At least it's new. At least I could sort of enjoy that part. Like, but, like, old stuff that is just being it's another, like, a toe clacking thing. Oh, Owen's doing that stupid hand again. Like, it's such a shitty, like, method to, like, sell on your product. It's like screaming, oh, consume product, which is, like, the one thing that the original movie was against. I'm like, oh no, not again. So, like, oh yeah, but yes.
I am gonna say, now that I think about, the concept of a Jurassic World trailer, there has got to be one thing in that trailer. There's going to be one thing guaranteed, I'm betting. We need to have that money shot of the mosasaur coming out of some watery depth.
Oh, yeah, like that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, because we've been milking that money shot since 2015. So. After 10 years, and I don't think anybody has actually said, no, we don't want more mosasaurs. We're gonna get that. Not that it'll ever feature in the movie properly or have a relevant point, but I'm sure that will be in the trailer. We're gonna get at least that, and I'm sure somebody's gonna be happy with it. Somebody will be on Twitter to be like, "Yes, Mosa's back."
Yeah,
for his 30 seconds of fame at that point, just like a Dominion.
Well, it's more fame than both of us will ever get, so here's that. Cheers.
It's more fame than the Compsognathus have gotten since '97. So yeah.
So like I can already like dread so many people crying out, "Oh, there's a Spinosaurus in the trailer!" Like, oh my god! Like, I can already see the Twitter threads happening. Like, oh, that's gonna be such a nightmare. Oh, imagine Spinosaurus being in Rebirth. Oh, that's disgusting. Anyways, moving on. Oh my god, this new segment is gonna be an hour long. Like, next time we aren't gonna spend any more than 4 minutes per section, right? Starting from now, right? Moving on, right? Greetings from Skull Island.
Get a stopwatch on us, chat.
Yes, right. Right. Apple TV is Legacy of Monsters Season 2. Apparently, for some reason, people think this is Space Godzilla. What do you think?
There was a Season 1? I hate to say it, but I never understood how we got this franchise rolling. Like, I'm even reading it. Skull Island, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. I'm not sure how we got into a franchise here in television format. I must have missed something in the last year or two, because it's like, I always just thought of it as like, here's Godzilla, here's King Kong, then we had kind of got another Godzilla movie, and then all of a sudden there's kind of this fever dream where a bunch of things happen in the world we won't get into. But then all of a sudden I just wake up and I'm realizing, well, we've had like 3 Godzilla King Kong crossovers, and somehow there's a television series about uniting all the monsters of the Monsterverse together. And I don't know. I don't know what to really make of it anymore. I never got to see the first season because it was on Apple TV. I didn't have Apple at the time, but
yeah. I
honestly didn't hear anything about the first time outside just hearing at least at some point there was this in the works. But now you're telling me there's Season 2, and I was like, wait, when the hell did season 1 happen? It feels like it kind of went so far under the radar.
I mean, honestly, like I was actually gonna say, if you when you pointed at Apple TV, I was like, wait, isn't that the thing that people use to watch Prehistoric Planet and nothing else?
Well,
So,
yeah, because I literally went and saw Prehistoric Planet because I was like, wow, this is actually like the new Walking with Dinosaurs series. And that was kind of all I ever used my free trial for.
you know what? Exactly. Me too. Me too. So, like, it's like that meme I think someone posted where like, oh, Apple TV saying to like, it's like a Rick and Morty meme. I think like saying, oh yeah, what do I do? What's my purpose in life? And Rick says like, oh yeah, your purpose in life is to play Prehistoric Planet. It's basically that for me too. Honestly, when I pinned this news, I was expecting you to know anything about the series, right? It's a dinosaur media podcast, yet we don't know shit about dinosaur media. We're not fit for this, right?
Well,
we're gonna go the way of the dodo now. It's time. It's Jover, right? It's time to give up.
I don't know. Then again, like this is again. Oh, that if I really want to dig my own grave in paleo media, I should really be. I should. This is the point where I should be like throwing the ultimate controversy out and just be like, wait a second, Godzilla was paleo media? I just thought it was a big scary lizard and a guy that actually operated the machine.
Anyways, right. Well, I mean, this is a thing. I don't know why people call it Space Godzilla. Honestly, I couldn't give less of a crap, personally, right? Because I've never watched the original Space Godzilla. So, as again, I'm immune to nostalgia. So, nostalgia, I don't give a crap about, like, whether something has been, like, if something's new. I don't, like, if it's something from my childhood, I'm not happy to see it, basically. So, yeah, moving on, right. So, so this is more about in paleo stuff, but a carnivorous attosaur has been discovered.
Ooh.
So, if you don't know what attosaurs are, they are of, like, basically herbivorous crocodiles. Crocodiles that are herbivores, like Desmatosuchus, like those weird Triassic ones, but, like, this one's apparently a carnivore, so, yeah, pretty interesting. So, right, and, you got anything else? You know anything about attosaur facts? Wanna say a cool attosaur fact, Dilo?
Sure, give me some facts.
No, I was like, you were supposed to give me facts. I don't know about attosaurs. I'm not that well versed in paleo. I told you. That's why we're doing a dinosaur media podcast.
Hey. Oh dear me. No, I cannot say I've got too many attosaur facts. Maybe antosaur facts. My Antosaurus, lovely lady, sometimes bakes cookies. But attosaurs, I feel like it's the start of a bad set of dinosaur puns. You know, the dinosaur that ate mom or something like that. But
okay, okay, right, right. We are not built for this, right? Okay, honestly, what this feels like, it's like we're trying to make a podcast, but it's slowly turning out to just be a comedy show. We're just like, we haven't even moved into the actual, like, scenes, like, what we're gonna be talking, we haven't even moved into Velocipasta territory, and we're just being, like, what are we doing? We're just been, like, 50 minutes in, like, nothing, like, of value has happened. We're just basically going over things we could have been going over in, like, 5 seconds. Like, look at that, right? Let me do this, right? Okay, right, okay. Dino Run 2 Bird. Papa T-Rex is now feathered. Land Before Time 36th anniversary. Collect Jurassic did an oopsie. Dinosaur Sanctuary, go read it. Jurassic World Dominion, new trailer, oh shit. Please no Spinosaurus. Apple TV, well that's now a thing. Right, Carnivorous Attosaur, that was like 10 seconds. And we've split this up into 48 minutes. Right, what are we doing?
it was 48 minutes well spent.
All right. Okay. Right. What's wrong with my model?
I'll be honest,
what the hell?
if you really want to let me take control of this part of the podcast, we can go for 2 hours on Jurassic World.
What's with my model? Why is it looking like this? Wait. What? Why is it like this? Okay, help me. I laughed so hard my neck broke. Hello? Hello? Why am I like this? Okay, right. Oh my god. Why am I like this? Okay, wait, hold up. Right, there we go.
Come play with us, Lopho.
Right, okay. Oh no, that's the opposite side. Right, let me just mirror this. Right, here we go. Right, no, you just mirrored your own motions, not the model itself, you idiot. Right, moving on. Right, finally. Okay, so that was a new segment. I'm sorry if we sounded unprofessional. Hopefully, next week we're gonna have more valuable dinosaur news that does not sound like an extended comedy show. Right, but if the Jurassic World Dominion comes out, that's when the actual comedy show begins. So let's cross our hopes and fingers, and let's hope that there's no Spinosaurs in the new trailer, because I'm gonna lose my shit. Right, and not in a good way. Moving on, finally. Right, Dilo. So
Yes.
Velocipasta.
Oh, sweet Sabbath.
Right, now's your time to shine, Dilo.
Now's the time to shine. All right, let's start talking. So, Velocipastor. For those who are uninitiated, Velocipastor is a very, very, very small independent film made back in 2017.
Wait,
A plot that features a velociraptor, a pastor, an ancient prophecy, and cocaine-dealing ninjas. It is exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like one of those so bad it's good movies. And Lopho, you watched it recently, so what I will ask is, what did you think? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it more than a play session of The Isle, which is not exactly a high bar.
That is absolutely fair. I think most Lambos for Time films would apply on that one, but continue.
Yes. So I think the one thing that really shocked me, because I haven't watched Dino Digo's media review on Velocipasta. So first of all, I didn't even know this movie came out in 2017. I thought it came out in 2020 or something. Yeah, I didn't even know the movie was this old, but yeah, that's a thing. So I think the one thing that shocked me is that, the movie had built up the main villain. Not really built up, they threw this in the face. He blew up the main character's parents in 10 seconds into the movie, but well, he was he looked like the kind of big evil guy that a cheap movies tend to build up to. But he was killed within the first 23 minutes, and I'm like, oh, wait, what? He's dead? Wait, what? Wait, so what do we do now?
Yeah. And that's part of the beauty of this movie is I feel like every time it tries to establish something that feels like a credible plot, it then goes into the mode of rampant contradiction and kind of dispels a lot of that to move on to a new point. And it's not very predictable in that regard, which is kind of I'm fascinated by, because I always keep thinking oh, okay, a lot of dinosaur, especially if you watch some of the really bad dinosaur movies, they have some very, very similar plots. You can sort of see them okay, yeah, we're gonna wait half an hour for the dinosaur to show up. It might spook some people, then they might run from it, that kind of thing. No, this film, it definitely keeps you guessing in good ways.
Yeah. Honestly, I was actually surprised. One of those, okay, so first, the movie made it seem like it's such a natural thing, but then if you just think about it for a moment, why are there ninjas in China? Okay, and not to sound racist, because I'm Asian, but this sounds like someone, I know they're probably doing this as a satire, but why are the ninjas from why the ninjas in China? First, number one. And number 2, Velociraptor is a Mongolian dinosaur. So, like, China's just thrown in the middle of nowhere for no apparent reason? Like, yeah, it's suddenly in China. And another fact is that one of those ninjas is Korean.
Well, yeah, there's definitely that. There's, well, then again, long before we even get to their big reveal of that, the main thing I would really ask in the first 5 minutes is how does he drive to China? The actual lead character is like, I'm gonna go on a journey, and he just gets in his car and starts driving throughout the credits, and then it's like China, and I'm like, it looks like he's been driving just down the street. He just drove to China? We're not going to address that question. Okay, fine.
I mean, maybe he was driving to the airport, you know? They completely skipped over the airplane scene because that was way out of their budget. I can see that.
Probably, but somehow in the back of my brain, I'm like, I would love just the idea of like, yep, he just magically drove to China. It was just down the street.
With the power of Christ, anything is possible. Hey, that dude split open a sea and killed the dinosaurs, okay? Right, driving to China is like nothing for him, okay?
Yep. Oh yeah, like, and that's one of the, and like I said, because of the how much just how contradictive it becomes in its plotting, how absurdist it becomes. It's like this is literally a film, even by the director. I'm trying to. Forgive me, I wrote down the name. Brendan Steer, who wrote, edited, and directed this movie. He's literally like, don't think about this too hard. You will hurt yourself to think too hard about the meaning of this movie. It is literally a film that was born out of an autocorrect mistake on a text message, so, where he tried to say Velociraptor and autocorrected to say Veloci space pastor, and he's like, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, like I think what was the other question I was going to ask you? The dinosaur. Like, let's talk about the infamous Velociraptor he becomes. I don't know if you got a still image of the real one that they showed.
I don't have it.
Because, like, I love the poster. I love that image that we got.
Hold on, let me bring it up. Let me bring it up. Right. Actually, I can do that, right?
But man, the actual deal is.
So basically, I've seen like the snapshot of the movie where they showed the Velocipastor, right? I've seen this I've seen this image with the Velocipastor. That's like the only thing I know this movie for, because before I actually watched it, because I very recently that was my first watch of this movie. So I knew that this scene was eventually gonna be a thing. But like when I was watching the movie, like the first time the animatronic, or like, can we even call it an animatronic? I think that's a disgrace to Freddy Fazbear, I think. Anyways, so this thing, basically, that he gets in, like, the way it was first mentioned, like, it was shown in the dark. Like, you could see it's a goofy toy, but, like, at the same time, like, they were trying to do something with it. Like, they were, like, trying to hide the fact that they're using a bad, toy, or, like, a suit, to cover up for the fact that the suit itself looks ridiculous. But then, like, 30 minutes later, guess what? He's, like, right in the open, in an open field, just doing ninja moves in that ridiculous dinosaur suit. Like, I'm like, oh, well, so what was the first scene for? You made it sound all too suspenseful, and, like, yeah? That's the thing now. Oh my god, my neck broke again. Oh my god. What's up with my neck today?
Well, then it at least matches the Velocipastor himself, because when I look at that neck and that hunchback, I'm like, my dude, like, you need some physiotherapy for that back.
Like, it's the 21st century, okay? Even dinosaurs have back pain. I have back pain. You have back pain. We all have back pains, okay? Right? It's just not to that degree, right?
Yeah. But like the reason I bring up the dinosaur is like I look at it as being like, well, it's a combination of wondering if it's become a little iconic in its own right, or just an irony of a film that's almost paying homage to the fact of like literally we're going back to Godzilla and in the 50s and be like, it's a guy in a suit. He didn't have the money to actually create CGI dinosaurs, so you work with what you get.
I don't know, to be fair. I'm gonna be honest, I think a badly made CGI dinosaur would be cheaper than a guy in a suit, I think. Like, I mean, have you seen how much, like, people pay for fursuits?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not to this extent, but, like, I'm assuming a guy in a suit is gonna be more expensive than a CGI'd in dinosaur, I'd say. But then again, a CGI dinosaur wouldn't have trouble, like, doing ninja moves, so I guess there's that.
Yeah, because like for context for viewers, it's like the film was made on a budget of $36,000 in American dollars, which is like the equivalent of paying for 1 hour of Chris Pratt to show up on the set, probably. So it's like this was made on such a not an impossible budget, not no budget, but just definitely limited. There was only so much you could get away with. Point.
Like, but it does make me wonder though. Like, I wonder if, like, because like some of those shots in the movie, like maybe it's because I'm not that knowledgeable in the movie stuff, but like there were some really hard going edits there. Someone was just going crazy on Filmora or whatever the hell they were editing the movie on.
Yeah.
Well, I can't blame him. I use Filmora to edit my videos too. It's convenient. What can I say? Right? It can do shit. Right? So, and like as I said earlier, right? Like, it was probably less expensive to have a dinosaur as a CGI'd and cheap dinosaur than an actual, like, guy doing the stunts in a dinosaur suit. That is, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure I've never seen this kind of suit before. I think they actually made it themselves. Because, like, if you think about dinosaur suit, like, that image, I know everyone thinks about that one particular suit. It's not that suit. It doesn't even look like it's based on that suit. It's like a completely other suit. I think they made it so, like, because in that other, like, blow up, like, that, balloon-esque dinosaur suit that we see commonly associated with dinosaur blow-up costumes, like, they have that head face, like, they have, like, a window in front of that place where the head goes, and the head is just usually just like a balloon on it. But this guy, this costume seems like it was designed like to look outside from the dinosaur's mouth, so it's like a complete different design. Like they got a guy to make this thing. So like I wonder if the movie's supposed to be like ironically bad, or if it's like actually bad. That just happened to be funny.
Well, and that's something that's kind of interesting to me, because like I'm at least looking at the movie almost from the perspective that it's actually I think the person making the movie, the director and this crew, actually knew enough to make the film decent in certain lights. Like you mentioned about editing, and you mentioned about certain ways that it was shot. It's like it's not, these aren't big guys who clearly don't know how to frame their movie or make their shots count. But at the same time, because of, I would say, budget restrictions, maybe just the commitment to the insanity that is this concept, it's like, yeah, it kind of veers into the lane of like, in the first 5 minutes, you know whether you're going to get into this movie or not. Like, right from the beginning, where it's like you have missing visual effects shots literally with a placeholder. You got to kind of know what you're getting at that point. Forgive me for a second here. I was almost gonna I was looking at my question I wanted to ask here, which was about paleontological relevancy. Do you think there's any in this for the educationally minded?
I don't know. I mean, it left a mark for sure. What can I say?
Like it almost makes a mark, because it's just like, no, you're not going to learn anything much about dinosaurs in here. The closest you get is I think you get one part in a montage. Like it's meant to be like a training montage that happens in the middle of the movie. And it's like the guy even admits like I don't know anything about dinosaurs, and you just see him like reading a kid's book all about dinosaurs or something like that.
Was it Dinosaur? I don't know. I think I saw that very specific paleo art from it. Like I think there was like an oviraptor in that scene. I think it was like a scene from Mongolia. I think that's that page of the book. I think that isn't that like a book scene from the Dinosaur heresies from Robert Bakker. I'm pretty sure.
Entirely possible.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, because if that's the case, that's a very well written joke that no one will understand.
And every so often, I do feel like the film does kind of wants to play tongue in cheek about some things paleontologically related, like even just the idea of it sort of like the mystical element with the two, like it starts off with like he turns into a dinosaur cut with a tooth, and it's and it's bestowed to people who are called the dragon warriors, and it's like, oh, it's kind of acknowledging like the connection of the myth of dragons being tied to dinosaur remains at one point as a source of inspiration. It's like, okay, maybe some little tidbits are kind of nice like that, but I'm sure it's not like, again, the director's like, nah, he's not, don't overthink it. I'm not trying to teach you anything here. It's more like just a nice homage. Like there's even a couple of scenes that feel like they're homage to a type of film style, like 70s exploitation movies. There's even like, just like I said, there's a montage in the middle that feels like, why do I feel like I'm in the middle of like a Rocky training montage, even though it's just reading about dinosaurs and occasionally the guy's working out.
I think I brought that up while I was watching the movie myself. I was like, wait, so if you turn into a dinosaur, what's the point in training? Like, if you train, if you get buff, do you turn into a buff dinosaur? Like, I thought the whole point of like turning into a dinosaur was the fact that you get to overcompensate for the fact that you yourself are weak. So yeah, if you just train your body, doesn't that just contradict it? Like, I mean, if you're gonna fight and turn into a dinosaur, like, why would you even bother like getting your health up, right? Like, just turn into a dinosaur and stop beating shit up, right?
Well, there was that essential scene when three ninjas somehow like dive into like a bedroom, and then all of a sudden, like, oh well, I'm in my underwear. I gotta do some cool fight moves for no reason. When you could have turned into the dinosaur. Yeah, I'm just gonna eat you guys. Whatever.
you know, they're like about that ninja scene. There's like, I don't know if there was anyone Korean in the developer team, I'm gonna be honest, but it's like a meme if you take in, like, for example, like Korean webtoon or writing stuff or something like that. If you like want to make the story dramatically like entertaining for no apparent reason at all, then you just give the guys a very quick laugh. Like, add a ninja. Like, it's like a joke that we have here in Korea. Oh, I don't know. The story's getting kind of boring. I don't know what to do. Oh, add a ninja, right? Oh, suddenly there's a ninja now. Do something. It's like a well thought out romantical scene. It needs action. Add a ninja.
Well, it was kind of like when we got to the point in the film where it's, oh, well, I turn into it. He starts admitting like to other people, like, oh, I kind of turn into a dinosaur. What happens? Exorcism. we got to have that like, oh, well, we gotta get the dinosaur out of you, and ironically, we go to a guy who looks exactly like the guy you would shake hands to make a deal with the devil with, which is more than hilarious to me. the guy that plays the exorcist he's an actual. I think he's a Mexican singer. He's actually done a bunch of studio albums. He's goes by I think his stage name is called Voltaire, and it's like he looks exactly like he does in this movie on stage all the time, and it's like, okay, cool stuff and all, but yeah, just things like that are even kind of like, I feel like they go down that route because it's like almost slightly meant to be tongue-in-cheek expected. Like, well, what's a film like? What would you do in this point? Yeah, exercise the dinosaur. It's a demon kind of idea. Or like even when I say about how that's like it's a footnote in the movie, but the whole idea that the ninjas are drug dealers, and it's like, well, why? It's like, well, we got to do that extra justification to say, well, they're bad. We got to do something that makes them bad, that actually is like indisputable. So it's like, make them drug dealers, because if there's one thing in North American media half the time, it's like you could be a serial murderer till the cows come home, but the moment we talk about drugs, drugs are bad. You're definitely going to hell for that. Like it's just kind of it's weird that way. It's especially because half the time I'm like, in the path leading to that point, there's a lot of contradictions. Like I said, this film is rampant contradictions all the time. Like it will, like even to the point of what does drugs have to do with Christianity? There's literally a guy in the ninja camp that says everything, and it's like, why? No reason to say that, but we just leave it at that.
Rated X for Christians. What can I say? Pretty
much. That is the disclaimer at the beginning of the movie. I think that was like, yeah, I'm in for a treat. That's when I knew. I was like, okay, this is gonna be funny. This film is for fun. Which speaking of which, that was gonna lead partly to the next thing I was gonna say or ask was like, how would you feel this stands out amongst many, like if you've seen other bad dinosaur movies before, how would you say this stands out apart from that?
Oh, I've seen a lot of bad dinosaur movies, mainly because my parents did not know the difference. Let's just say my parents didn't know the difference between a dinosaur documentary, a Dinosaur King DVD, and a dinosaur what you call it, whatever, right? They couldn't tell the difference, basically. So they'd be like, "Oh, hey, Lopho, I bought you this amazing, like, dinosaur DVD set," and if I didn't even know, like, because I didn't know what movies were real and what movies were, like, dog shit movies. So I was like, oh yeah, that movie sounds interesting. So we found, like, L.A. Rampage dinosaur movie. Have you seen that movie? Honestly, it's the movie with the Carnotaurs, Ceratosaurus, and the Pteranodons.
No, but you already at least listed two dinosaurs where I'm like, I don't see enough of you in movies. I would see them just for that. I think you said Ceratosaurus. I'm already like, yeah, I want.
Yeah, the Cerato is the big bad villain, and the Carnos are the Raptors for some reason. I think that movie is, honestly, even to this day, I know it's cheap, but it's one of the movies I like genuinely enjoyed. I guess maybe it's like from that, like, it's just awoke something in me when, like, they showed you, like, the weird, like, very CGI scene of all the different dinosaur species, like, Dino-Raw models and those, like, 3D, like, what you would call those incubators. All of them just something I was like, oh yeah, that is fucking badass. And then when I saw, like, the dinosaurs just rampaging through the street, right? Like, okay, you gotta remember, right? Now it looks ridiculous, but, like, back when I was, like, 10, okay, that was badass, okay? So, like, because until I rewatched the movie recently, I had the idea, like, I was, in my mind, the dinosaurs were just really cool. And then we were like, oh no, these are just Dino-Raw models. Like, why are they running? Like, why is that truck just, like, running towards the dinosaurs? Why aren't they dodging? It's like... Like, it's, like, very obviously, like, there's some cheeky stuff. Like, it's bad, but I enjoyed it. I think Velocipastor is also one of those movies that, like, it's not about the dinosaurs this time. I think the movie itself was, like, decently entertaining. I think, I think it was pretty good. Like, I've seen some really bad dinosaur movies. I think, like, the Dinosaurs in LA is, like, one of the few movies that I would actually consider, like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good watch. Like, it's a dog shit movie, but it's worth watching. I think Velociraptor, Velocipastor, and that fits up with that bill. I think it's a tier, like, I think it's like 4 or 5 tiers above, like, other dinosaur, like, bad movies made from Asylum and stuff. Which is stupid, because Dinosaurs in LA was also made by Asylum.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I'll add to that one, like, just from my perspective, we're kind of looking at it more from, like, a film perspective was like it also just kind of inhabits a place where it's like when I think of a lot of like when we call it the bad dinosaur movies, D movies, if we want to be funny about it, it's like they kind of borrow very similar plots all the time. You can always sort of trace the DNA of what they're kind of riffing on. So it's like if it was Jurassic Park verbatim, you could really tell the Jurassic Park motifs. If they were borrowing concepts like from like there was one I saw called the Jurassic Games, and it's
that one.
People go into a VR game and they get hunted by dinosaurs and criminals, and if the winner gets released and whatnot, it's like, well, technically that's kind of more like a story written by Stephen King called The Running Man that just someone threw dinosaurs in. So it's like I can sort of trace the lineage of where they were getting their ideas from, and it's not too many steps removed from it. Whereas I look at Velocipaster, I'm like, Christ, what the heck do you really go back and say, what was the core, what was the film that you could really say this was trying to riff on? You would be hard pressed. You could say there's genres it wants to play with. There's definitely a style of its own that I could say the closest is like some of like 1970s exploitation movies that came out in the States that were very like corny, over the top, highly over the top, violent kind of films. But it's like I can't really say there's like, is there another dinosaur movie that did something like this before in the last like 10, 15, 20 years doing this? Not really. So I kind of feel like that stands out, even just as even as absurd as the plot is. It's like, well, it definitely was doing something more than just saying, well, we're doing Jurassic Park, but we've got, 10% of the budget or something like that.
I don't think it's 10%, buddy. I think it's like 0.1% maybe.
Well, like I said before, it's like, the budget is kind of like, yeah, you could even like one or two of the cast members of like the Jurassic World series to come onto this set with that budget. And in some ways, I kind of find it fascinating. Technically, our main lead does have more of a character arc than Chris Pratt does. So, for a fraction of the budget, I'm impressed with that.
That's true. I hate to admit it. That's true. What the fuck, right? Okay, so before we move on to the next topic,
Yes.
So you did mention about Velocipaster being a pretty decent because it doesn't really have that classic dinosaur movie plot DNA onto it, right?
Yeah, it tries. I think it is trying its own kind of absurd way of being unique, and that actually is probably the point in its favor, because it's definitely not just rehashing something we've seen a lot of in the last 20 years.
Yeah. So, have you heard about the new movie that's coming out next month?
Yes, I'd heard some stuff. Like what I have heard was like for a while after this film came out, the director was like, yes, totally, I would love to come back and do another one, but it kind of fell by the wayside for a while news wise. Like he said he wanted to, then there's big old COVID pandemic that happened. I think it fell by the wayside mostly because of that. There was he started up and I think back about 2 years ago. He started up what do you call it, like a Kickstarter to try and finance the movie. He had a bit of a teaser trailer that was just mostly a lot of
what what movie are you talking about?
Velocipaster 2.
No, the movie that's coming out next month. I was talking about The Invisible Raptor.
No, I have not heard of The Invisible Raptor. do tell.
Okay, well, so this is basically they went, oh yes, well, we can't afford a dinosaur, we can't afford a suit, let's just make it invisible, let's just pretend there is one. Right, so yeah, that is The Invisible Raptor. So it's apparently gonna release in theaters on a digital on December 6th. So it's like, how many days are there in November left? Like 11? Like there's like about like 2 weeks left.
So this is going to come out in about 2 or
2 or what? What did you say?
About 2 or 3 weeks,
Yes.
roughly.
Yeah, your voice was cutting out. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of excited for this because it's gonna release right after my birthday. So I was like, oh yeah, that's worth a watch for my birthday. Perfect. And then oh yeah, the dinosaur movie where there's no dinosaur.
Well, and if I was wanted to go to the theater to see something, I'd rather give this a shot than be like, or two. Yeah, great. Okay. No, I don't need to relive that past glory. I already grew up with that nonsense. So yeah, I would be interested in this because, well, that's again a bit of in a strange way, it's a novel conceit because it's like we always want to see the dinosaur, and instead this is kind of the way where, well, the point is you can't really see the dinosaur. So I guess my real question is, let's hope the rest of the film carries itself without that, or not without no spectacle of the dinosaur, but at least like with that conceit of like, okay, you're gonna wait a long time to see that dinosaur.
Yeah, I mean, look here. It seems like there's like a quick scene where the dinosaur does blow up in flames, and you can kind of see the outline and stuff. But like, I don't know. This seems to be like a slightly different like tone the movie definitely seems to give from Velocipastor, where it was just bad. This just seems to be like a movie with a decent budget that is kind of trying to be bad. So I don't know.
It'll be interesting because like I again, like when we talked about Velocipastor, like part of its charm in many ways is that it kind of just knows right off the bat, it's like, we can't really make this that serious. We can't even begin to be this serious. So they didn't even try with some things. Whereas here, it's like it looks like it, like at least when I was watching there with you, it feels like there's something there to work with. They've got it. It looks polished. It looks like they've got some good people involved, at least on a production level. It probably has a bit of a budget, so we'll see where it goes from there. It's just a lot of like the tropes of like, well, we're just waiting around for the dinosaur thing to happen in a film where you're literally never meant to see the dinosaur.
All right, so well, talk about dinosaur less or movies that don't really have a lot of dinosaurs in them, despite being paleo media. So this is a suggestion that you brought up yourself, right? So what?
Yes.
So let's move on to the next topic. We're like already like 20 minutes behind, but let's talk about paleontologists, paleo media. So what do you think? Honestly, at first I want to ask you, like, what were you thinking when you asked me that we'd be covering that today? Like, what made you, what, like, things, like, led to that conclusion? Like, what do you want to talk about this? Like, what is it about?
So a lot of it kind of really stemmed from when I kept thinking about how I have seen paleontologists in our fictional media, let's say, for the most part. So like a lot of the time, like the classic that many people would look at is like, oh look, you have your Jurassic Park movies. You have Alan Grant, the paleontologist, and he's a character and he does things and whatnot. But I kind of felt when I thought about that one day, where I was kind of going like, okay, like yeah, there's Alan Grant, but it's like, well, what else have we got here outside of fiction? Like I kept thinking, well, what do we have that isn't fiction? Like, because really, I felt like a lot of the time in a fictional setting, paleontologists are kind of just there to really sit there and be like, we are the authority on something dinosaur or paleo related that clearly nobody else knows, the audience may not even know, and it's sort of like this narrative validation for what's going on. So if something happens with a dinosaur or something that seems like it would belong in that sphere of science, it's like, okay, well, we'll validate it, even if it isn't. It's just there to narratively justify the validation. And then I just kind of thought like, well, okay, well, what about like, when we have real paleontologists? Well, a lot of the time it's documentaries. You just see them in like I remember seeing things like, as a kid, there was Dinosaur Planet. There was When Dinosaurs Roamed America, parts of the Walking With series where they'd cut away to like a paleontologist who would, for a minute or two, condense and verify the actual information on that was presented to you. And it's more legitimate in a educational sense, but it's the same role. And I kind of just felt like, okay, so we're just kind of like the roles just seems to be like we're endless, like paleontology just themselves are just there to endlessly validate things. But it's almost like they're just there to just do that and say like, yes, we approve. But I kind of just felt like, well, paleontology for 200 years has had a lot of interesting figures in it. There's been some fascinating figures inside in that world, in different parts of the world and from different backgrounds. And it's like, well, why don't we actually really ever get something where it's like we actually just talk about the actual person instead of just like using them as influence for narrative purposes or validational purposes in documentaries? Why can't we actually have where's this why can't we have a story about like Edward Drinker Cope and Ornithal Marsh and the Bone Wars of the 1870s in America, or even about like the rediscovery of Spinosaurus in Egypt that was spearheaded by a bunch of young paleontologists, things like that. And that's why I kind of almost want to start having this as a topic, was because I was thinking like, well, where is all that media? Like, where is that media that would celebrate those people behind the scenes?
So about that. So I think it depends. Like, how far do you think? What do you mean by media? Do you just think like visual stuff? Like, do books count?
I would say books definitely count, and it's probably the only. I would actually argue that in terms of media, it's one of the few areas where I would say that is actually different from what I was just describing. I was going to get to the point of saying that probably books is the closest that we get to actually having something that is not only just written by paleontologists. Like, there's lots of books that are written by paleontologists, but they even actually get inside those books tend to describe their experiences in paleontology, or they write about the history of paleontology itself. I've got a few books I'm even looking at where it's about like the discovery of the biggest Tyrannosaurus in North America. There was one about the history of paleontology in Canada. And I'm trying to look at, there's at least two others. The Gilded Dinosaur was another about like I said, the bone wars of North America in the 1870s, 1880s. And it's like, yeah, like books is actually probably one of the few areas where that is actually very viable for paleontologists.
Have you heard about the Bone Wars book written by Michael Crichton?
What? Remind me what it would be called as a title.
That is why I was asking you, because I don't remember the title. What was it? No. I'm gonna look it up, right? What is it? Yes. Dragon Teeth. Have you written or not written? Have you watched? Looked at? Have you read? Oh my god! Can't believe I forgot the word read. Oh my god! Go touch some grass, Lopho. Right? Dragon Teeth. Have you read Dragon Teeth? I've read it. It's a decent read. It's exactly the type of media that you'd think. It's actually one of the media that would perfectly fit your description. It is hardly about dinosaurs, but more about the discovery itself, and the people behind it.
Yeah, so like in this discussion point, forgive me one second here. I'm double checking because I had a mention about there was books as well as I had found out there was also technically, and this is another one that's kind of a bit unusual, but there is like a video game called Dinosaur Fossil Hunter. I believe you've played it before. I have not myself, but it's like that's at least like an example of at least being like, okay, it's another interactive form of media where it's more you're put into the perspective of that role it may not be about specific paleontologists in history, but it's at least sort of this idea of like you put yourself in the shoes of that profession to a certain extent.
I don't know. I think, I'm gonna be honest, that was like, I played the game myself, and I'm not giving a bad review just because the game accidentally had a bug which soft locked me out, and which I contacted the developers for, which they said if I would send them the game files, they'd be fixing that and sending me back to the email, but 3 years have passed. They haven't gotten in touch with me ever since, so I'm definitely not blaming that on them. But I will say that the way paleontology was focused, like, was put in that game, is a very, very rough extent. Like, it's more focusing on the transport and dig, and that's about it. But, like, that's not all that paleontologists do, you know? Like, there's, like, the research part, the study part, you know, in a thing where you're supposed to be studying about prehistoric life. You aren't excavators, you know? Like, I don't think, like, it's a very rough degree, I'd say. Like,
of course, because also, again, like, it's an interactive form of media. Where are you really probably going to design a game where it's about you sitting down and reading science, you know, let's say doing research on scientific papers? It, like, to us, that would be probably like, cool, a paper about ichthyosaurs, awesome. Then a lot of people would be like, oh, so you're gonna make me sit here and read when I was supposed to play the game.
No.
Okay.
I was just saying that, like, the game itself is a very vague, it's a very, very vague way to say that that's, like, focusing on a paleontologist's, like, life or discovery. Like, I think it's, like, a very, very small aspect of it. Like, I don't know if I wouldn't exactly consider that a paleontologist media. It's too little. It's too little. It's like saying that it's like saying that the original Jurassic Park had featured Diplodocus just because there was a toy of it in the background of a shot. Like, you see what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean,
yes.
Technically speaking, yes, it is, but it's such a small extent where I'd say I wouldn't call it that.
I can agree. Also, it's funny that you bring that up as an example, and I always thought of, for me, like, an example I would say from the same film is like when Dennis Nedry's taking the cryogenic dinosaur DNA, and it's like, hey, there's at least 3 dinosaurs mentioned in there we never actually see, but hey, they're mentioned. Does that count?
I mean, those are literally words they like put on a piece of paper and glued on. Okay, I think a physical toy has a higher representation value, I'd say.
No, I understand, but I get what you mean. In that it's just like it's loose at best, and that's fair. Like, that's, you know, like, at least when saying about the game, it's like I can see that it's not. You say vague. Vague is a good word. Loose adaptation of a profession, probably, things like that. But yeah, like it's. But the main reason, like, in bringing it up is, like, I guess I would say, like, a question I would ask, like, to you, just because I feel like I know the answer, but might as well just talk about for at least a minute, is why would you say we probably don't get, like, a lot of film or TV or too many pieces of media outside of, say, books that really focus on a paleontologist in a real world sense?
I mean, I think it's probably because, like, for example, right? Like, because, like, you gotta sell your product, right? So imagine that you have to, like, make a documentary about paleontologists, and you need to sell it to an audience that isn't always about dinosaurs, right? That isn't always about paleontologists or paleontology. In fact, it's like, I think it's a very similar reason as why we don't exactly have, like, a documentary about being I don't know, psychologist or something like that. I mean, maybe there is one, I don't know. But basically the reason, right? Because I don't know that. It's because, like, if you would market a documentary about a paleontologist to people, you would market it as a dinosaur documentary. Because there's more people that will be seeing, like, oh yeah, that's a dinosaur documentary. Let's go watch it. Then there's gonna be, oh yeah, here's a documentary about a dude that studies dinosaurs. Let's watch it. Like it's there's like less of a train of thought like that need to pass before you conclude to the conclusion that, oh yes, we're gonna watch dinosaurs tonight. Right? I think it's easier to say, oh, it's a dinosaur documentary than it's to say, oh, it's this documentary about a guy who studies dinosaurs. And, like, another thing is that I think there is a documentary coming up about the discovery of Spinosaurs. I think Nizar Ibrahim posted something about that on Twitter or Facebook. I can't quite remember. I might be wrong, though, but... yeah, I that's another thing I wanted to throw out, but... yeah, pretty much that. It's just easier to market. So, and if you're gonna market that, I mean, also, you if you're gonna make a dinosaur if you're gonna make a paleontologist documentary, like, I mean, you're gonna add in a couple of CG dinosaur shots in there, well, why wouldn't you, right? But then it slowly becomes like, at what point do we like do the barrier of like, what is paleontologist media and what is dinosaur media? And my conclusion just becomes like, I mean, at that point, it's just kind of the same thing, you know? But let me tell you about something that is not considered dinosaur media, but could be considered paleontologist media. So, dragon teeth, that's one thing. And visual media speaking, wasn't there like a weird, like, lesbian Mary Anning movie there as well? Like, I've never watched it, but I've heard people talk about it.
Yes, I have actually seen it.
Oh,
and the main thing is like, yes, that is part of it. I don't get into I won't get into too much of those aspects, only because my main focus when I watched it was sort of like, I was looking at it more from the perspective of, okay, so like the story is about Mary Anning's relationships. It isn't really about her paleontological career or her achievements. They are present in some capacity, but it is not the central focus of the plot. And so when I watch it, like, I always thought of that as being like, okay, that's kind of like, at least that's a baby step. Like maybe that's the way I like, it's a baby step towards getting to something like that, maybe, where it's like where you probably have to at least follow a narrative where you are humanizing the figure themselves. You have to actually build up some type of like relatability, and also just like, sometimes I will admit, maybe one of those other reasons why it's like, why we don't get maybe so much of it is maybe some people don't actually have like some type of epic narrative to go with it entirely. Like, I can't imagine, like, in some cases that's always translatable, especially because you would think, like, let's say if Hollywood ever wanted to make a big a big multi-million-dollar film about, let's say, just as I guess one example is like you're saying about like, the rediscovery of Spinosaurus. Well, it wouldn't be just enough to be like, oh, well, there was an expedition and we found the dinosaur bones. We got to throw in a lot of sort of almost created drama along the way. We gotta spice it up a little bit. We gotta have like I know with a lot of historical dramas, once upon a time in like the 50s and 60s, it's like, hey, 50% of this movie could have been real. But definitely I could see where the Hollywood system came into place and threw in a love triangle for no bloody reason. Because we gotta sell some tickets here and make some steamy romance somewhere in there.
So was there a lot about paleo stuff in that document or in that movie?
It's present. Like, it's acknowledged. There's even kind of a technically the acknowledgement in the light that in her time she wasn't truly recognized a lot for what she had contributed to paleontology. So like, she even finds like one of her ichthyosaurs in the natural museum, and it's like she doesn't get a mention. It's nowhere mentioned that's like she discovered it or had any part to play in like actually describing anything about the fossil, even though she did have like obviously found it, sold it to collectors, had some information to give them, things like that. That of course, like we find now in history, it's like we can go back and find out that there was definitely the real story behind it, but it wasn't recognized in their time. There's at least a like acknowledgement of things like that. There was an acknowledgement of how, yeah, like a lot of her trade throughout her life was in the finding and the selling of ammonites in order to live where she did. And like things like that are acknowledged and are part of the film, but like I said, they're not really like brought in as like the central focus of the movie. In comparison to, as you mentioned, like there's like other relationships. So that is that's where it's kind of like it's more like a personal drama than it is a let's call it a biopic of like someone's career and exploits. I guess the difference would be like it's more like I almost call it more of a romance than say a biopic like we would have of say singers or musicians or other infamous figures in history. So, like, again, it doesn't make any of it like a bad film, but its focus is not squarely on that. It's more like it's part of it, but it's never brought into. It's very rarely brought in to be a central focus of its plot, or as even I can sort of tell the reason it was trying to be made in the first place. And like you said as well, like there are documentaries that kind of would do more in that regard, probably. So like you mentioned about like the rediscovery of Spinosaurus, there's a documentary about the discovery of Sue, the largest Tyrannosaurus skeleton in the US. Gigantic legal battle about it too, throughout the 2000s. So like I would say like, yeah, there is like maybe documentaries you might see a little bit more going into that regard, but it's still also limited even in that genre in particular, which is more focused around factual information than trying to make a fiction. So I guess one thing I would say is like, if like you're saying like, there's sort of like these limitations in place, but what would you let's say if money wasn't a factor, if you could actually try to make something out like, let's say you had the reins to make a media project about paleontologists, for example, is there a what would you pick? What format would you go? Like, what would you say, like, we should be looking at traditional forms of media, like standard film, television, streaming, or maybe like the internet maybe is starting to look like a better outlet? Things like podcasts, things like YouTube channels. Would they be better outlets to try and tell more stories about paleontologists in that regard?
I think I would go for a paleontologist anime, actually. It would be pretty funny.
An anime?
Yeah, because I think there's like a manga about the life of Mariani. Like, it's actually already a thing. So, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe turning that into like a manga series would be kind of fun to see. But, like, here's the thing, right? Like, even without money, like, if I would be making something about paleontologists, like, I would want to have a lot of people, like, watch it, right? Like this isn't really a question about like money and stuff. It's more about like I want more people to watch what I do. So it's kind of like that. Like, I'm not even saying that, oh yes, because like for example, it's kind of, if you think about it, like streaming way. Like, I don't play League of Legends because like, yeah, it doesn't have dinosaurs in it. But I still try to catch up with the recent dinosaur stuff because it's for the dinosaur niche. So, even if it's like, as I said, the boundary between dinosaur paleomedia and paleontologist paleomedia is, I'd say, is a very thin line or even non-existent. So, if I would try to make a documentary about paleontologists, it would probably look very close to that of a dinosaur documentary instead of a paleontologist dinosaur documentary, because I would like more people to watch it. So within the scope of the people who are interested in dinosaurs and paleontology and stuff, I would try to do the maximum of audiences there. So I would definitely try to get, like, because if I made something cool, I want people to watch it, right? So, like, I'm definitely not gonna cripple myself just because, there's, like, I only want paleontologists in their stuff, right? Like, I don't know that would be, like, a sensible thing to do. Yeah. That's my take.
Fair. Fair. I guess, like, okay, maybe for, like, maybe a pitch I would have. Like, I'd call it a pitch because I don't have any. I wouldn't. I'm just kind of coming off of it off the cusp. But, like, what about pitching the idea of, say, like, the idea of what we have in, like, the streaming sense of things nowadays? Pitch a mini series. Every episode, like, pitch a mini series. Make it a limited number of episodes where every episode features a story. And you get your 45 minutes to tell it, in relatively authentic, or preferably authentic means.
I mean,
but, like,
there's also, yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, like wouldn't things like that be a possibility in a light? You do a limited thing, you try it out, you tell a few stories from around of paleontology from around the world. In different times, and see where it would go from there, as an example.
I think, like, when I was a kid, so first of all, right, when I was a kid, I think there was a magazine series called Dinosaurs. No, it wasn't my age. I think, like, I remember buying those magazine series off of the flea market. So there's a very famous scene, I think it's like a hand-drawn comic, where they show you, who was it? The guys from the Bone Wars. They were like, oh, you put the head on the bottom of the tail, I think, and the guy's, like, in that very shocked pose, and, like, I think, like, that's like it's like that, comic series had the life of various paleontologists in a comic form, and I guess that would be the most closest thing we can have nowadays, but at the same time, like, I think you said you'd be making a series. Every episode would be that of a different paleontologist, but then again, first of all, most paleontologists nowadays aren't exactly very adventurous people. Like, maybe, like, yeah, back in the day, we had, like, Edward Drinker and Cope being, like, just being absolute adventurer stuff. We had, who was that guy again? The guy that came to Mongolia, Andrew, yes. Andrew
Roy Chapman Andrews,
yes. He came to Mongolia. That he was a very adventurous guy too, but, like, modern day stuff, we don't really, like, it's hard to make a documentary because, like, number one, most of the people just sit in their, like, stuff and they do their own stuff. Or number two, it's gonna look like a true crime documentary if they're gonna start, like, where we don't want to have a movie where they date their student, Like, I mean, it's either that or, just a guy in their lab just studying fossils. Like, I like, looking at it from an entertainment perspective, like, I find it hard to find, like, a spot that would hit the sweet spot for modern paleontologists to sound like they're interesting, because if you only feature paleontologists from a long, long time ago, like, from the beginning days of paleontology, there's also the bad impression that could give to the people that, oh yeah, modern paleontology is boring. Back then it was cool. Like, I don't want to give that idea either, so it would be at least a decent, like, balance between a very old paleo stuff, like, from the Bone War stuff, and, like, stuff from the very, like, 1990s and stuff. But, like, even if you look at a very interesting and fun paleontologist, such as Robert Bakker, I think, which is, like, I think he was a pretty famous paleontologist that a lot of people love. But, like, let's say you make a movie about him, like, would there be, like, what would be what kind of, like, story or drama would it have? Like, I find it very hard to put a drama in there unless it's, like, feels very forced, right?
Well, that is definitely probably one of the bigger challenges. I would say for sure. I would agree with that. I even was probably going to make a point and say that is probably one of the biggest challenges is trying to make it, bring authenticity without then trying to get into sensationalism. Like you bring up Robert Backer, and it's like maybe the one thing, like if there's one thing I find fascinating when you bring up too is he technically like wrote a piece of paleo media called Raptor Red, which was a book from the perspective of a year in the life of a Utah raptor in the late Cretaceous, and it's fascinating because some people some people were very confused about that book because he's both trying to be artistically creative with a story, but he brings so much paleontological like terminology into it as well. People were like, okay, like when he's talking about the fenestres of this dinosaur, wow, like sounds very technical. But it was an interesting case of like, okay, well, that's a paleontologist trying to actually write a actual piece of paleo media in an artistic light. That's not something that a lot of them do. Even a lot of them would be far more playing it safe by writing more about actual paleontology. So maybe there's something to be said. Maybe like if somebody wanted to do a couple of months of research, they find out there was some type of agonizing process in making him writing that book. For all we know,
but
not
then again, we could put a 3D dinosaur on screen and say, "Oh, dinosaur go raw," and that would probably gain a larger audience. Like, I think that's really the big issue here. Like, it's. I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it's a bad thing that we don't have paleontologist media. As long as we have like decent quality dinosaur media, people will always take an interest to becoming a paleontologist.
Absolutely. I bring it up not. There has to be some gigantic pivot. It's just I always just thought of it as like it's an interesting case of something that's become of just look at like the way I've always looked at my interest in film and media studies, and even with the paleo media, is like it's fascinating we can always talk about Jurassic Park movies and certain big things, but it's always kind of interesting to look in these other corners and just be like, well, like, okay, what is going on over here? Why do we have it? Why don't we have it? What does it kind of tell us about how we enjoy that media too? Because like you say, like it's easier to put a 3D dinosaur on the screen and create a sensational three-way battle between a raptor, a rex, a hybrid Frankenstein dinosaur and a mosa than it is to try and tell the story of like how somebody discovered iguanodon by literally finding rocks in a quarry in their backyard. It's it is, as you say, like it's based on what people would take interest in. And maybe somewhere there's a group of people who would love to see more things along the lines of paleontologist theme centered media. But maybe, like you say too, it's also a case of, well, we've also very much would like to see the dinosaur too, or more specifically, the dinosaur. That is what captures more of our imaginations than the process itself, than the profession.
Ah, I see.
So it's just I feel like it's just an interesting corner of media to talk about, and just it's nice to explore, because like we do have some media. It does definitely exist. It's not like there's maybe more specific outlets of that media. So like like you sort of mentioned, books is a very prolific one compared to, say, video games. But it's nice to know that these kinds of things.
Yeah, it's a moment of appreciation.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dilo. So I don't know. It's like I feel like kind of rude to cut you off, but like remember, Dilo, we're only supposed to talk like 30 minutes per subject.
Yes, and we are
I'm
coming.
sorry.
We are
I'm sorry.
coming up
We're
on our
almost
time.
2 hours, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah. So like, it's like, anyways, yes. So yeah, today was the first like episode of the fossil record. I know it's like it was very scuffy. Like, I know like we had a lot of things going on. Like we went way to depth and other things. And other things we went way to over their heads really smoothly. But yes. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be rewatching this stuff. I'll be trying to figure out what we can do next time to sound more entertaining. So, Dilo, what did you think about today?
Hey, it's always good to have an experiment like this. Like we don't, like you're saying, like we're working on things. It's a little rickety, maybe a bit like a square wheel, but hey, we got to start somewhere if we want to try something new. So it's worth trying. It couldn't hurt, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And I feel like we had a good conversation. We had good discussion points. We had good moments, whether in genuine seriousness or in silliness.
But yeah, I think that is gonna wrap up today. So, human dinosaurs, let me know what you guys want to hear in the next week's podcast. And yeah, until next time, may the Jurassic Sprint with you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.